Welcome to your daily bread for today. My name is Felix. I'm teaching from my book Think, Believe, Become, and we are studying the parable of the sower. And today we want to talk about the stony heart. Last week we spoke about the wayside heart, and today we want to talk about the stony heart, which is the second heart condition that we find in the parable of the sower. So and we are teaching through this book that I wrote. So we are in Mark chapter 4 and verse 16. These likewise are the ones sown on stony ground, who when they hear the word, immediately receive it with gladness, and they have no root in themselves, and so endure only for a time. Afterward, when tribulation or persecution arises for the word's sake, immediately they stumble. So the second ground, or the second heart condition, is what Jesus calls the stony ground. Now the stony ground is different from the wayside. The wayside is not part of the garden. The wayside is apart from the garden. It's by the wayside of the garden. But the stony ground is in the garden. And the stony ground is ground which has rocks and which has stones, which makes growth and productivity difficult in it. Now, the interesting thing about the stony ground is that in this kind of ground, seeds can grow. When you cast seed in it, it can grow. The only problem is that stony ground limits how much a seed can grow into a plant which will bear fruit. Because on top you have this top layer of soil that you can cast seed in, and it will go in the ground and it will shoot. But then, because there's stone, the roots of that plant cannot penetrate beyond the stone. So the plant ends up drying up quickly and dying. So he says here that these are the people who hear the word and immediately they receive it with gladness. So here we see that these people hear the word. They are promoted from the first category. The first category, the wayside, they could not understand the word. But these understand the word. That's why it says that immediately they receive it with gladness. So when they hear the word, they receive the word with gladness. They are excited about the word. They are happy. They jump, they shout, and every preacher loves preaching to this crowd. These are the people that are receive the word with joy and gladness. The only problem is that they don't allow the word to go deep in them, because their hearts are stony ground. So he says here that immediately they receive the word with gladness, but verse 17 shows you the problem. And they have no root in themselves, and because of that they endure only for a time. These people get excited by the word. They are happy to receive the word, and we should all be excited and happy to receive the word. So their challenge is that the word cannot establish root. It says here that they have no root in themselves. This means that the word has not entered deep into them. They don't have the root of the word deep in their heart. The word is not rooted in them, and because of that it says that they receive it, and so they endure only for a time. Afterward, when tribulation or persecution arises for the word's sake, immediately they stumble. So you see, these people don't have a root system. Now, you and I know, I hope you know, that the root system of a plant is the most important part of a plant. The root system of a plant is going to determine how long that plant is going to live and whether it will thrive or not. Why? Because the root system is the one that is drawing water and nutrient from the ground to feed the plant above ground. The root system is also what is upholding that plant to stay upright. A plant without a root system cannot stay upright. It will just fall. And so that's also why we don't plant in sand, because among many reasons, because sand cannot really hold the plant, it will collapse. So we plant in soil, and those roots go deep and they hold that plant firm, so that you get a one-ton tree, and it cannot, which is very tall, but it cannot fall. So that's how important a root system is. So the idea here, and remember, God is comparing the word to seed and plants. So the idea here is that you receive the word, you hear the word, you understand the word, you allow that word to develop deep roots in you. And once that word develops deep root in you, it upholds you, and it also nourishes you, just like the roots do a plant. Now, in this category, because the ground is stony, rocky ground, the roots can't go deep, which automatically will mean that this plant cannot thrive for long. So it says here that after persecution, when tribulation or persecution arises for the word's sake, immediately they stumble. You see, notice something else here, that tribulation and persecution arise for the word's sake. This means that the tribulation that is coming to them was not coming. That's why it says arises, which means it was not there. It arose, it woke up, it came. The tribulation and the persecution came because of the word. It says it arises for the word's sake. So what's the point here? The point is this, that your enemy, the devil, is not really after you as a person. He is after the word that comes in you. Why? Because the word that comes in you has the ability to change your life, to transform you, to cause effortless transformation in your life, to change everything, to make everything work for you, and to totally destroy and frustrate the work that the devil wants to do in your life. When the word comes to you, and when you receive the word, and you receive it in faith, and you receive it properly, and let it grow in your heart, that word produces life that the devil cannot defeat or fight against. The devil, now here's what is interesting, the devil knows the power of the word, and we Christians generally do not. The devil knows that God used the word to create the world. God used his word to save the world. And he knows that word is powerful. And he will come against that word. The moment you receive the word, is coming against you. And so we see here that in this heart category, these people here, the first category, the wayside, they had the word, and he came immediately and stole it. Now in the second category, they had the word, but he could not steal it. Why? Because they understood it and it entered their heart. So he did the next best thing he could do, which was to cause tribulation and persecution and problems to arise because of the word they've received. Don't be surprised when people criticize you because of what you believe. When you hear a word and understand it and believe it and get excited about it and receive it, that word arises tribulation and persecution. It arises people to come against you. If you have people coming against you, whether you're friends or family or workplace, whatever, don't take it personal. Don't think they are evil or they are bad. No. It's the devil using them to come against the word that you have received. And so you need to learn to look beyond the people and to deal with the devil who's trying to steal the word from you. And he does that by tribulation. What is tribulation? The problems that come against you. You know, you have trouble. And what about persecution? That's people coming against you, coming against the word, coming against your faith, coming against what you stand for in your workplace. They may want to throw you out, coming against what you stand for in your family or among your friends, you know, and your friends leaving you because you are weird. But all of that is tribulation and persecution arising because of the word that is in you. Now, if you're in category 2, it says, immediately they stumble. And this is the unfortunate part, is that when we receive the word and trouble comes, poverty comes, sickness comes, bondage comes, all of these things come to get the word out of you, and we give in and we yield to it and we get offended. We say, this word does not work. Or we say, God, where are you? Why are you letting this happen to me? And we say all these things that we say and do, and we lose the word. We become like that farmer who plants a crop, and because he's not seeing the result in 1 week, he goes and uproots the seed to check whether it's growing and puts it back in and uproots it and puts it back in. It will never grow. If you allow the tribulations and the persecutions that come to you because of what you believe, if you allow them to get you out of that you believe, you will never see that result because you have uprooted the seed. Now, what's the solution? What do? You stay in the word no matter what. You commit to the word and you say, look, if this word kills me, let it kill me. But I am not going to let go of this word. I am not going to stop believing what God's showing me. I'm not going to stop believing what God has spoken to me, which I've believed. I'm not going to stop believing it. Don't stop believing what God has showed you. Don't stop believing what God has spoken to you. Don't stop believing the word that you're standing on. If that word is stirring up hell to come against you, so be it. But don't let go of the word. You stay in the word. You stay believing. You stay strong in that word, knowing that that word is going to produce in you what it says it will produce in you. Knowing that that word is going to be fruitful in you. You stay in the word. You don't let go of the word. That's the remedy, is to stay in the word, to be rooted in the ground. Now, let's talk about the remedy. First of all, Jesus said that they have no root in themselves. So obviously, we see here that it's important for you then to have root in yourself. One of the best ways to have root in yourself of the word is in Ephesians chapter 3 and verse 17. It says that you, being rooted and grounded in love, may be able to comprehend with all the saints what is the width and length and depth and height, to know the love of Christ which passes knowledge, that you may be filled with all the fullness of God. Now, this verse shows us that the way we are rooted or grounded, it says, you being rooted and grounded in love. What love? Agape love, the love of God. It says that when you are rooted and grounded in the love of God, you'll be able to do all of this other stuff that he talks about here. But here he's making 2 points in one statement. It says that, first of all, be rooted and grounded in love. Now that can be interpreted 2 ways. We can say this, that when you are rooted in love, it means that you are established, you are grounded in the love of God. That means that the love of God is what is the truth that you have rooted yourself in, that you've understood the love of God, that you've pursued the love of God, and the love of God has rooted you and grounded you. And that's very important, because the love of God does that. If you want to be rooted, you need to know to discover the agape love of God. It roots you and it grounds you. But the second way to look at this verse is he's also saying that love itself, forget about knowing God's love as a doctrine. He's saying that if you discover the love of God, if you know the love of God as your doctrine, as your truth, as your paradigm or way of thinking and believing, he says that then you'll be grounded. That do you see, there are 2 things here. The first one is this, that you need to be grounded in the truth of God's love. In other words, you need to understand the love of God. You need to commit to the love of God. You need to believe that God loves you with all his heart. That's the first interpretation of this verse. The second interpretation is that the love of God grounds, the love of God establishes, the love of God keeps you. And so here's how it works. As I discover the love of God, and as I sink my roots deep in the love of God also establishes me. The love of God roots me. The love of God makes me firm, immovable, unshakable. So you need to establish yourself in the love of God. And here's another one now here that is talking about another solution. It says that immediately, Jesus said that immediately they are offended. So here's the second thing, do not get offended. I already spoke about that earlier. Do not get offended. Do not allow the word that you believe to be stolen from you by your enemy. By submitting to the lie, don't get offended. Believe the word, stay on the word, and you will be victorious and you will be successful. So this is the second heart. This is the second heart. The other thing, of course, is meditation. One of the best ways to get the word in you, actually the best way to get the word in you is meditation. But like I said, I have a whole chapter on that we'll talk about. But if you meditate in the word, you'll be established deep in you will establish deep roots in the word, and the word will establish deep roots in you, and you will be firm and immovable and unshakable in the love of God by the word of God. So I'll be back and talking about the third category, which is the thorny ground. And remember to like, to share, to subscribe, so that you get these messages whenever we upload them and put them out. My name is Felix, and this is your bread of life, and I will be back. Go to amazon.com and get my book. You can find the link down in the bio, and you will enjoy going through this with us. So goodbye, and you are blessed.